funniest thing. So, I put out a whole lot of videos, and I had one. I was reading through some comments the other day, and you generally try not to read too much of the comments, but I do. People might have some questions or may correct me because I don't want to continue to say the wrong things. And one comment said, Clark, are you a professional at something? Because you usually are not dressed up in real nice clothes. Well, I thought that was odd. And I'll address that quickly. It's like somewhere along in society, people said that if you aren't wearing nice clothes and a shirt and tie, you weren't professional. What does that mean? What about if I'm comfortable? So today I'm wearing a sweatshirt and a hat, and I'm going to talk to you about something. I want people to remember what I say and listen to what I say, not based on what I wear, but because the content and the value is good. It might spark a conversation. It might make you think of something or lead to an area of success. So, on excuse me, one of my social media channels today that I was reading, this was just today. This person, who I know professionally and personally, started his post out saying, whatever happened to be able to trust auto mechanics? And he went on to explain, I'm going to paraphrase, a situation where he took his vehicle and the mechanic said he needed 4 new calipers and 4 brake pads and just some miscellaneous things. But he said, I think that whatever happened to the days where guys actually diagnose things, or women, people diagnose things and actually worry about trying to save the customer some money and not just go to the most expensive repair. Now, that post got me to thinking about something that I talk about quite often with clients and with people in the public. And first off, we're assuming some things. We're assuming that we think that we knew what was wrong with our vehicle before we took it. So let's just take that out of the equation. I don't know if this mechanic was right or wrong. But that very statement, he opened up by saying, whatever happened to have good, honest car mechanics? Now, regardless of what trade you're in, I'm in the restoration, property damage restoration industry, disaster recovery. Do you think that customers say things like, whatever happened to people being trustworthy? These water restoration guys come in here and tell me that their equipment, and they're going to spend an hour or two the first night and then the next couple of days, and it's going to cost $8,000. Why is this? They're just ripping me off because it's my insurance money. Why does it cost so much? Does any of that sound familiar? Do any of you ever? I know people that are afraid to show their customer their invoice, and they send it straight to the insurance company. I know people that way. And I'll say, why do you do that? Why don't you send the invoice to the customer? That's your customer on your contract. Because if they see that, they will question everything that we did and say we weren't worth that much. So a couple things are at play here, and I want to have this as a conversation. This might be a little bit of a long video. That's why I'm not recording it live. It'll be on my YouTube channel, or our YouTube channel for air. A couple of things come into play here. Do we ask ourselves, why don't the public trust people in the service industry? Because I do think, on one hand, there has been a very huge decline in the professionalism of the ability to display trust and to show trust and compassion before you get to the dollar amount. I believe that there's a method that you can take someone around to the brakes of their car, that you can take someone to the floor in their home or their walls, or if you're in roofing, you can get on the top of the roof and show them what your diagnostics have found before you ever get to the point about money. So think of a doctor. A doctor will take your vitals. They will check a few things. They will ask you certain questions. How long has this been going on? They'll look in your ears. Sometimes it's really simple to identify what's wrong and what's making you ill. Sometimes it's not. They ask you a lot of questions. They take you through the process. You're not talking about how much it costs. You just want to get better. You trust that doctor is there generally to help you feel better and find a cure or a remedy for what's wrong with you. So think about the professionalism in our industry. So, regardless if we do a good job of this, there's also, doesn't matter what trade, there are levels of professionals, and there are those at the very, very bottom. Arguably, I think there are a lot more that are in the lower quadrant of professionalism of any trade, and it comes from lack of education. People that once worked for someone doing a certain thing, and they thought through their lack of emotional intelligence and their lack of financial education, just arbitrarily drew the conclusion that the owner of that company was making a ton of money. Look how much money we're making for the owner, without realizing that they were thinking of revenue, not profit. So they then went off, cashed in their 401k, took their life savings, asked mom and dad, best friends, get a loan, run a GoFundMe, whatever it is, buy themselves some equipment, buy themselves a few things, and started the business. So first off, they quickly realized that when you start a business and you don't have a referral process or you don't have a way to get leads, that now you just have a business with liability and a whole bunch of equipment and overhead to pay for, but no business coming in. So then they sporadically and almost like a schizophrenic start marketing, and you start paying a lot for marketing because you don't know what you're doing. And there are a lot of people in the marketing world that are just like any trade. They will take your money for what you do not know. They will gladly take your dollars because they think they have a silver bullet. You will spend a lot of money, okay? And you still won't convert real well. You'll go to the customer and you're just like, oh man, every job's a home run. I've got to kick it out of the park. I'm gonna make this $3,000 job $8,000. I'm gonna juice it up. It's an insurance company. You don't do good work. The customer finds out that really quickly that you didn't really know what you were talking about. And then they go to Facebook or they go to social media and say, why is it we can't find any service professionals that are good anymore? Okay. You see where I'm going with this, right? That situation is the same as that auto mechanic. They're just in business for the dollars. They're not in business to help people. They're not really in business because they want to resolve it. They don't want to be the best in the industry. They want to be the richest of that week. Now let's take the really good professional people. So when someone posts on their Facebook page that there aren't any good mechanics, they're making an emotional post or emotional statement based on their experience with the one that they just had. We all know that there are good mechanics out there. We know that. I know I finally have one. And I went through this journey. I had a mechanic that I didn't trust anything they said, and I'm not great at working on cars. And I felt like I got taken advantage of several times. But here's the thing. The good mechanics, the good carpenters, the good restorers, the good deck builders, the good pool guys, they aren't marketing as much. You know why? Because they're busy. They've built a network of trusted colleagues and trusted referral sources. Their name has gotten so good for the work spoke for itself. They did not have to tell everybody. They did not have to pump all of their profits into marketing just to get people to click on their site by appearing at the top of the list. They actually are getting qualified, good, warm, or hot leads and connection because someone said, if I'm having a deck built, I'm using so-and-so. If I'm having a flood in my home, those are the guys I trust because they've helped out my family. They helped out my church. They helped out everybody in town. Those guys aren't marketing a whole lot. Their marketing budget goes way down. When you do really good work, you stop spending money with lead gen companies. You turn back some of your other things. Arguably, there are times when you still need that. So the really, really good ones in the market are looked at the same as the bad, because people generally paint the whole industry with the brush of saying that one guy and the last three that I went to were crooks, so the whole industry is a crook. So therefore, fast forward, you're not a crook and you show up at a home. The the population or the general consensus is that we're all crooks, and you have to overcome that. You have to know that going in. You have to learn how to start asking questions to figure out where your customer's mind is. Do they is there a large amount of distrust? Well, onboarding customers is something that I feel like I'm very, very good. I'm actually completing tonight a presentation at our summit in Charleston, South Carolina about that. You start onboarding customers before you ever meet a customer, before you ever even know that that person's ever going to call you. There are things in place that are building trust. And that starts with your team and your staff, your trucks, your marketing, your messaging, everything, okay? Then there's a magic when you start contacting the customer. The things you do in every single connection start to build that trust until when you finally get on site, if trust isn't there, they want to trust you. They just need a reason once you're there. And that's where you really, you turn up, show up, you're authentic. Don't talk about price. Don't talk about cost. Start becoming the expert that they needed when they were looking for you. Okay? So my point is, and this was certified by the post I saw today, every industry, a barber or a restaurant. Listen, if I go, and this happened to me once before, someone's told me this. I went to Seattle, Washington, who, by the way, is known to have great food. But I was just in there for a day. I was teaching a class. I flew in, I Ubered, I did not have a car, and I walked to a little restaurant, bar and grill, next to the hotel. The food wasn't good. You know what, subconsciously, and I caught myself, I immediately said, God, food in Seattle is no good. You know how many people do that every single day? And then they go and look on Yelp and find out that, yeah, that wasn't very good. I wish I'd looked up the stars before I came here. All these things come into place. You, as a business, as a contractor, as a service professional, restoration, roofer, doesn't matter what you do, you need to start thinking like a customer. You need to start remembering that you yourself are a consumer, that you make purchases, and you make decisions based on your trust. You make decisions based on what you think someone's worth. If you start thinking in those terms and stop thinking like whatever trade professional you are, because you're probably just using a copy and paste from everybody else in your industry. This is what everyone does, so this is what I'm going to do. Why? Because I don't want to look that different from everybody else. Or I want to tell everybody we do everything different, but you don't, because you turn around and you look and you're just like everybody else. Everybody says they do a great job. Everybody says that they're going to talk to the customer and be there with them the whole way. That is not novel. Those things are potted, automated answers. Listen, if I'm someone and someone's coming to this house trying to pitch me on a service, oh, we have great reviews online. We'll be there when we say we're going to be there. We do good work. Everybody says that. You haven't told me. I could have guessed that it was what you were going to say. So here's the question I have, and this is the real jux of the whole thing. If you have people in your market that don't do a good job, and you know that those guys, if you believe what I'm saying, or if you've experienced this yourself, or if you said, he might be right, start thinking about, if that's true and Clark is right, what are you doing about it? Are you just going through your day just praying and hoping that a customer finds you? Are you spending more money at marketing? How about all of that stuff? But how about you and your peers in your industry do like we are? The Alliance of Independent Stores, we're starting chapters so that we can hopefully get 5, 7, 8, 12 of the same type of service companies, the best of the best in town, talking at one time, working on how do we better serve this community? How do we coming up with the best ideas? People with strengths and weaknesses trading for the other. Let's reach out to those in our market that don't do good work. Let's bring them in and see if we can't help coach them up. Listen, they're there. They're not going to go away. Let's see if we can't raise the bar so that at least the lower level isn't so bad where somebody goes on Facebook and say, we all suck. Because I know you can't help what people say on Facebook, and you can't help what other restorers or other contractors do. But you can ask, reach out, say, hey, listen, I think you might be new in the industry. I've heard some things around town, not to insult you, but I did the same things before I knew better. Why don't you come into my group and let us wrap around and let's systemize how we do things a little bit. I'm not talking about pricing. Stay away from pricing and fixing and collusion and all that. I'm talking about procedural, customer service, even billing. If someone in your market is pricing jobs 80%, 100% lower than everybody else, it's because they don't know. And they also don't have the overhead. But they also won't be in business very long. You could say, listen, I'll let them go ahead and keep pricing themselves out of business. The problem is, what if they last a year? What if they make it just long enough to continue to hurt your business for another year? And you're working really hard to do good stuff, but the other guy in the market really is. So, listen, I look at competition as your best friend or your biggest enemy in how they do their work. So bring them in and see if you can't identify some things that they're doing poorly. Help them do it better. Forget that they're a competitor. How about you do it for the citizens of your community? How about if you do it for the people that you may know or you may have come across or that are in your town? Don't you want the best for them just as being a good human? Help a young company do better work. If they aren't open to it and they say, stay out of my head, I'm doing it right and blah, 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 it's time to go. It's time to turn on the pressure. You and your colleagues basically have free reign to make sure that nobody in town uses them because they are hurting people. You've heard me say this before. If you've ever followed anything I said, I think we have a responsibility to our market and our town to not let poor contractors continue to do bad work. Because if we do, and we knew that contractor was bad, someone gets sick, someone gets hurt, someone loses a lot of money, and you're like, oh yeah, because you hired so-and-so. Yeah, we knew he was bad. Well, that person may turn to you and say, wait a minute, you knew there was somebody doing bad work, and why didn't you do something about it? Why don't I believe in that. I believe that a community doesn't let others hurt others. So your community say, well, yeah, wow, you are protecting your own, because they do the same thing. You don't, you want to. It's all y'all are all in this together. All of a sudden, I don't look much better. Now, you may think I'm wrong. You may think I'm crazy and I'm completely off base with all of this, but I think that there's a professionalism that we all owe our industry, we owe our customers, and we owe our company, and then we owe ourselves. If I'm proud of what I do, I need everyone to do good work around me. It's just how I was raised. I want everyone to succeed. If they're already in business, you might as well let them do good work. So anyway, I thought that this was a good time to talk about when I read something about there's no good contractors, there's no good at this. There's a real reason why that's the opinion of people. And we have to look back at ourselves and ask what we could have done about that. So until now, Clark Brown, Alliance of Independent Restorers. Check us out at airrestore.org. We're trying to unify our industry, trying to change it. Look, we're trying to just get the best of the best, the smartest, brightest, youngest people that are coming up, future leaders, elder people, everything. Just check it out, airrestore.org, and just check it out and contact me. Drop a comment, send me a private messenger, shoot an email from the website, whatever you want to do. But we're changing everything. And unless you're in love with how things are going in your industry, you don't want to see it change, like especially restoration. If you're in love with it and you think there's no problems, then don't contact us. But if you're having struggles getting paid or knowing how to do this or how to do that or how to get the right education or train your staff, we're trying to help our whole industry as a whole get better. So, hope to hear from you. Take care. Bye.